I'm Darrell Goodman, Director of Products for Achieve It Solutions. Today I'm going to be a warehouse manager, and I'm going to see how SAP Business One 9.2 and Resolv can help me maintain my physical warehouse. Let's start by looking at my bin locations, which is how I organize my warehouse. SAP allows me to maintain multiple warehouses, and within the warehouses I can define the different areas or sub-areas that I maintain inside the warehouse. As you can see here, I've chosen to organize my warehouse by aisle, then shelf, and then a level. Within the warehouse, I've now created a unique location or a bin code, in this case representing a particular spot in the warehouse that exists on aisle 1, shelf 1, and level 1. You can choose to create your organization in the warehouse differently, giving you the ability to create unique bin codes or by changing the definition of how you organize your warehouse. Once you've created a particular bin location, you have the ability to set information about the bin that can help facilitate the automatic processing and proper maintenance of your warehouse. For example, I can choose whether or not the location is a dedicated receiving bin or whether or not it is available for picking by choosing to exclude from automatic allocation on issues. You can see that SAP is going to maintain information about the total number of units that are in the bin location, as well as batches of cereals. You'll see that I have the golden drill down arrow, which when pressed will actually give me the ability to see exactly what's in this bin location. So as you can see here, I have multiple products, and it tells me the specific quantity that I have for each of these items. Some of these items were managed by serial or batches. In this case, you can see that there are 4 of such items in this bin, and if I drill in, I'll be able to see specifically which serial numbers are available in this bin location. So for this particular item, you can see that I have serial numbers 1 to 3, as well as serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now back on the bin master itself, you'll see that we also have the ability to control and manipulate information about the bin. So for example, I could specify a barcode that is different from the bin location itself. This allows for facilitating scanning, especially if you have existing barcodes on your warehouse. You can determine an alternate sort quantity. So if you wanted to find the path through your warehouse, you can define your preferred order of preference for this particular bin. You can also specify information such as the minimum and maximum quantity that's allowed in the bin location, as well as a maximum weight. You can set restrictions, such as requiring that the bin support exactly one item, either by specifying an item allocating this bin location to a specific item, or allowing only a single item at a time, such that when the bin is empty, you can put any item in, but when it has the first item in it, it can only maintain that item until it goes back to 0. You can also do the same thing by saying that you're going to limit to a specific item group, such as ensuring that only food products go into this particular location as opposed to paper goods or other products in your warehouse. You can specify that you are only going to allow specific units of measure or specific unit of measure groups, ensuring that if this is a case location versus a pallet location, that you can control the material that goes in there. If you are managing serial or batch items, you can ensure that you only put a single batch into the location so that you don't contaminate or confuse material physically while storing the material. And finally, you can restrict the transactions to be able to indicate whether or not you're going to freeze the bin from all transactions, only allow inbound or outbound transactions, or not allow anything other than inventory transfers or counting. This is useful when you have a quarantine or other location that you want to ensure that cannot be picked from or modified in any other way. Another feature of the bin location is the ability to use user-defined bin attributes. These allow you to define the types of information that you'd like. So in my case, I've chosen to create an attribute called climate, allowing me to specify for this bin location if it is a frozen or heated or a dry location, and I can define any number of values that I'd like. And if I want additional attributes, I can define them in the system as well, giving me the ability to report on and control my bin locations in detail. Another important aspect of being able to maintain my warehouse properly is ensuring that I have accurate counts for all of my items. Here you can see on an item master that I've defined a cycle count code, which will define when and how often the system will recommend to me that I count this product. As you can see, this varies by item and even warehouse, and gives me the ability to take a look at my weekly, monthly, or annual cycle counts. This data is also user-defined, and as you can see here, I have the ability to set various settings so that if I want to create a monthly cycle count, I can define multiple monthly cycle counts to segment my material, and this could be given on specific days of the month or on specific days of the week, and you have the flexibility to set these up on all of your items. Additionally, from the item master, I can also see specifics about where this item is stored in the warehouse. So if I look at my bin location content list, I can see exactly where in the warehouse or warehouses this item is located. It also gives me the ability to see additional information. So as you can see here for this bin, I've restricted it to a specific item, as well as setting a minimum and a maximum quantity. This maximum quantity is displayed here, and although I'm above the minimum, so I have 15 on hand, you can see that right now the system is recommending that I replenish 85 units to be able to get back up to my maximum. At this point, I could check this item off and make an automatic recommended replenishment based on an inventory transfer. This automatically brings up an inventory transfer document. And the system is recommending that I move 85 units from different locations to replenish the bin location. As you can see here, based on automatic allocation rules, the system has suggested that I clean out my bins with lower quantities, removing all of the units from both the 3PL ship and the Shelf 1 Level 1 bin locations. However, you'll see that SAP supports multiple automatic location methods. And so, for example, if I wanted to reduce the amount of movements to replenish this, I could choose descending quantity, in which case it will automatically suggest that I take all 85 from the system bin location. Next, let's see how using the smart device can allow me or my warehouse staff to properly maintain and manage the data anywhere inside the warehouse. We'll start with the inventory menu, and you'll see that I have a similar bin maintenance functionality that will allow me to see the data about the selected bin. In this case, you can see, again, as I chose the same bin, it shows me once again that I have the minimums and the maximums, and that this bin is reserved for a specific item, and I could modify this data if needed. Next, let's talk about bulk bin transfers. The bulk bin transfer solves a common problem in the warehouse, which is I need to make space for a new product that's coming in, or I want to reorganize material in bulk. But I have maintained all the data about the items in a warehouse by bin location, so I can't just simply move the products. My bin has multiple items, potentially multiple serial numbers, and I want to take everything that's in one location and move it to a different location, such as, for example, taking product that was stored on a low location and moving it to a high location to make room for heavier products. The bulk bin transfer allows me to select the bin where I want to move the material from and the bin that I want to move it to, in this case moving the material from level 1 to level 2, and simply post the entire movement with one entry. And this successfully updates the information inside of SAP immediately so that the inventory locations for the items that I've just moved are correct. As I'm walking through the warehouse, I want to get information about an item. So I can use the quick search to scan or enter the barcode or the item number and be able to retrieve information about the item. So you can see here it shows me the locations that the item is supposed to be located in, as well as the details about the item, and I can also look at my warehouse quantity across all the different warehouses. Since I want to see what else is in a particular bin location, I can use the same quick search function to search for a bin location, which will bring up the detail about the bin location, showing me the items that exist in that bin location. Again, I can also look at any bin details, so if I have a description for the bin or any restrictions, I can see that information. You can also use the quick search to search for batch numbers, serial numbers, and more. As I'm standing in front of this bin location, I see that the details don't quite match what's physically in the warehouse. This leads me to another common function, which is counting. As you can see in the counting, I am presented with 3 different choices of counting. I can do a bin count, a cycle count, or a physical count. A bin count is going to allow me to count a specific bin location and immediately adjust the inventory to reflect what I'm counting. This is compared to the cycle count or the physical count, which will allow me to perform counts which can then be reviewed, rechecked, and finally accepted into the system. Let's start by doing our bin count. I start by scanning or identifying the bin that I would like to count, and then I can again scan or enter the item or barcodes for the items that I find when I'm counting the bin. So we'll start by indicating that I found product number 425, and that there are actually 4 of them, not 3 of them. As well, I found the printer that was located in that bin location. But those are the only products that I saw. I did not see any other items in the bin location. So when I finish this, this will automatically adjust the inventory instantaneously in the system so that I can see the changes reflected when I do the bin search, as well as inside of SAP. Let's compare that to our cycle count or our physical count. A physical count is a traditional counting method in which somebody will go through the warehouse and typically count everything in the warehouse. This will allow them to go through and specify the bin and be able to scan any of the items that are in the warehouse to be able to count them. And they're expected to count everything that's in the bin location before moving on to the next bin location. When performing a physical count, it will confirm everything in that bin location, and any item that you don't count in that bin location will in fact be treated as a zero and removed from the system as part of the process. Keep in mind that the physical inventory and the cycle count post to a inventory counting document inside of SAP, which we'll later see gives us the ability to do a review. A cycle count is similar to the physical, but rather than allowing us to specify any item, you'll see it limits us just to the items that the system has recommended for us to perform a cycle count for. Cycle count sheets can be printed and prepared and distributed, or you can use the smart device to be able to identify which products it's time to count today. As we go through and we count our product, we can then specify all the locations where we found the item and add them into the cycle count. When I finish counting all the locations that the items found, I can go ahead and finish this, which will update my counting record into SAP. Back in SAP, let's see how both the bin count and the cycle count got created inside of SAP and the differences between them. First, we can take a look at our bin count. When we take a look at our bin count, you can see that this created a document called an inventory posting immediately inside of SAP. The inventory posting calculated the quantity that we were supposed to have. So you can see there was 3, we counted 4, and that created a variance of 1, so we added 1 unit. For the printer, we were supposed to have 1 and counted 1, so we had no variance. And for the nozzle tip, we didn't count any, so we needed to adjust the inventory out. As you can see, this immediately posted to the SAP, creating both a financial document and an inventory adjusting document. Let's compare that to how SAP handled our cycle count, or how it also would have handled our physical counts. This creates, instead of an inventory posting, an inventory counting document. The inventory counting document allows us to see what we counted, and it shows us any deviations or variances, but it has not yet posted it to the system. So you can see that we identified that we did count the correct total number of units for it, but we did have an inventory location discrepancy. So for example, we only counted 950 in this location, and we counted 4 in a location that SAP did not otherwise know about. This is going to post a variance to be able to move it when we copy it to the location. While looking at the inventory counting, let's look at some other functions that the SAP inventory counting allows us to provide. We did a single counter count, and I did the counting. However, as you can see, I have the ability to configure multiple counters, which gives me different tools to be able to identify how I want to ensure that my counts are accurate. So I could start by specifying multiple counters, in which case SAP will keep tracks of the individual counts of each person that does the counting. You can then ensure that you have a perfect match reconciling it, or you can choose to accept the accounts of either counter. You can also specify a team of counters, which differs from individual counters in that a team of counters, it will sum up all the counts of all the individual people. So if you have a very large inventory in a particular location, you can have more than one person counting and be able to compare that count to the total count in the system. This can be combined into many different scenarios where you can combine a team counter and individual counters for recounts to be able to ensure that you actually have the accurate information. Ultimately, this will be copied to an inventory posting, which will show you only the discrepancies that were identified, in this case, the variances that I did during my count. When I post this, it will ask me to confirm if I want to maintain the detail about the items that had no discrepancies, in which case I'm going to say yes. And I now have completed a successful 2-stage process by which I was able to do a count, review and correct the information as necessary, and then post the adjustments to the system. Finally, while we've looked at many traditional transactions that a warehouse manager may use, SAP provides the integration of all the different departments, which can generate data that could be useful to me. So for example, warehouse item planning is typically used by our procurement or logistics department to be able to maintain the appropriate purchasing levels, giving us the ability to buy, produce, or transfer product on a coordinated basis. But SAP also maintains information about the effective movement class, so I can see how fast items are moving. This information can give me insight as to how to reorganize my warehouse appropriately to ensure that I have fast fast-moving products at the closest pick locations to the shipping dock. I can also use the information generated by the logistics department to be able to see the expected inbound containers that I'm going to receive, so that if I need to make room for material that's going to hit my dock in the future, I can see exactly what's planned to come in, if it's late or on time, and that'll help give me the information that I need to be able to ensure that when the material does get here and I go through an inbound receiving process, that I have effectively created the space and the appropriate locations for that material. I hope you can see how using SAP Business One 9.2 and Resolv can help a warehouse manager improve the efficiency of the performance of their warehouse and maintain accurate physical counts. If you have any questions or would like more information, please visit us at www.achieveit.com. Thank you.